Thank you. All right, now we move to item 14, the closeout report on Stapletons Road, Randall Street and Petrie Street renewal. So let's take any commentary on this first. We'll obviously take the report as read, but if there's anything that staff particularly want to highlight, and then we'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to take a moment at your discretion to just put a bit of context behind this, because there have been a couple of questions. So,
yep.
Stapletons, gosh, I can't even get this straight. Stapletons, Randall and Petrie Street are in the Richmond area. The council, many of you will remember the Dudley Creek bypass went through this suburb post-earthquake, and it was a big part of the land drainage program at the time. And at the time, also there was skirt works going on across the city. So there were two streets in this report, Petrie Street and sort of 2/3 of Randall Street, needed to be reinstated post the Dudley Creek bypass going down those streets. So, and then and the Dudley Creek bypass was reported to this committee on the 5th of December in 2018. So that closeout report has been to this committee in the past. Through the 2018-28 long-term plan, there was a lot of feedback from the Richmond community. They'd had a lot of works in the area. They'd had a lot of construction trucks, and they were, and their streets were in pretty poor condition. That was the feedback we were getting. Staff worked with the community and community groups to understand their concerns, and as a result of that, we developed a program of works that was put into the LTP and has since been progressed. These are the first of these streets that you're seeing today. Staff, the transport team also took over the responsibility of the final reinstatement for those bits of Petrie and Randall that the Dudley Creek bypass had wiped out pretty much, because they pretty much had gone down the whole street. They'd taken the whole thing out to put the big culvert down there. And I think post this report, post that time, we have worked together better as teams across council to make sure we are coordinating our works where we can. It doesn't always happen with asset renewals, but when we've got big asset reinstatements like the Dudley Creek bypass, we are trying a lot better to have a better outcome for the community post that works. Other than that, if we jump forward to doing these streets, Kirsty here was the project manager, and on the whole the works went really well. The community's been very positive about what we're doing. We've still got more works going on in that suburb, so there are more streets to report on in the future.
Great, so thank you. And thank you for that particular update as well. That helps to put this report in context. I mean, it may be that in future with these reports, it would be good to have that contextual information as part of the report, but it's great that you've been able to provide that verbally to the meeting today so that we can see this report in that broader context of the particular situation at the time.
Chair, I'm very supportive of that approach as well, so that it means we don't have to retrofit in the committee.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. So are there any questions on this report? Mike.
I don't know if I can do this as a question, but look, I think everyone agrees, especially in the community, that the outcome after everything was done was really good. But I guess from an elected member's point of view, it didn't seem to be as smooth sailing as this report. And it's great that we've obviously looked at, we've combined the work that were happening to make sure we got everything done. But from my recollection, it wasn't that straightforward getting that little bit of Randall added to this whole project. Outcome was good. But I guess when I look at the lessons learned, there was a workshop and it included a number of people. The one thing that's missing from there, I guess, would be governance perspective. So potentially the ward councillor to say, hey, look, these were some of the issues that we found from our point of view, to make sure, I guess, that could be developed moving forward. Sorry, it wasn't really a question.
More of a statement. But can I
Oh, the answer is
can
yes.
I respond? Yes, and we are starting to do that more and more. So we are looking to do the same thing with your own board about the downstream effects works that have been done from the CNC. So that is something that we are looking to try and do more of and report back through the boards as well and get that feedback. I think, to be fair to the roading team and the transport team, the issues that were being had and the concerns that were being had that resulted in the community meeting were about the Dudley Creek bypass. So, and I understand
I'm not having
your
a go at
confusion
the
in that.
transport team.
Yeah.
I'm just saying when we look at the map of what was done, and it includes the whole length of Randall Street, and I just know when we're going through that time, it wasn't that straightforward, we felt, from our point of view, to actually ensure that the whole of Randall Street was done at the time. Like, the outcome was great,
So
but
we
yeah.
got to the outcome.
Yeah,
but it was because only 2/3 of the street was funded as far as the...
Yeah, no, I understand that, and I guess, like I said, moving forward, lessons learned, we just need to have elected members.
And this was back in 2017, 18, when we were having these conversations, so...
Would it be worth putting a noting provision in there, noting that in future closeout reports will invite comment from local councillors?
It's not so much the closeout report, it's the project itself.
Well,
I mean, I
both
think,
really.
this is the closeout report doing exactly what we want it to do, which is, looking back on the project. Here we've got a report that on the face of it, certainly if you read the report, it would appear that, this project was delivered well and the community were happy with the outcome. All of that is true,
Yes.
but clearly there were some conversations that happened along the way and some frustrations along the way that are not called out in this report as perhaps have been described by the local councillor. I think that tells us something, first of all, about the purpose of these reports. It's good that this report generates the discussion we're having now. Secondly, and picking up on the point that I made earlier, it's important that we put any contextual information into these reports in future so that we get a fair picture of how this project was delivered, but in the context of, how the project, which is the subject of the report, was delivered, noting anything that happened along the way and noting any contextual information within which that project rightly sets.
So to be clear, from the perspective of the whole organisation, both members and officers, the point of a closeout report should be to understand what we did well, what didn't go as well, and what we would change, and making sure we make those changes and they stick. And that's about being a really good learning organisation. I think these reports are very good, but it's capturing all the elements, and I think the members are raising a legitimate issue in terms of how we get that voice. And I know this history, and I appreciate that, but there is a way we can do that, I'm sure.
Yep. Yeah, this is the closeout report doing exactly what it's intended to do, which is saying when we come across issues like the one that's been described, involving the elected members, giving the elected members a heads up, having early elected member involvement, probably could help avoid that sort of situation or resolve it more easily in future. That's this closeout report, raising that discussion, exactly the purpose of the closeout report.
Yep.
Andrew, sorry, just to clarify something, I'm not the local councillor, it's Pauline. I'm just
Right,
a community board member.
Thank you. Okay. So, Yanni.
I think the problem with this report is it focuses at a very detailed level on what was done, but it doesn't focus on that high level strategic question around why land drainage projects weren't incorporated with roading at the start. And that's probably the biggest concern I've got with land drainage as someone who's had projects in my ward where residents have asked for similar things to happen and they're not happening. So, I'd be really interested if there was any kind of lessons learned around how you can get a greater synergy around a land drainage project, and then what's the outcome in terms of the final roading project. And
I don't think you're correct there, Yanni, because the land drainage work had to be done first, then it became a transport project to reinstate. It's just that one piece of the road was not included in either of them.
All right, can I get some comment from staff on this, if that's possible?
that's not actually 100% correct. The land drainage project was going through, and the land drainage project was needed to reinstate those two pieces of road. As staff, we are looking, and we need to look more at how we can get benefit for the community when we put really large infrastructure projects right through communities like this. We're working hard to try and achieve that moving forward. At the time, Skirt was also working in this area. The transport unit didn't actually have a program of works in the Richmond area, so there was a whole another level of complexity and noise. Those two streets were always being there. Following the feedback from the community meetings and the LTP, we developed a program of works. Now these projects were on it, and these projects were always prioritised on that, and we've got a prioritised program of works that is rolling out through the Richmond area over the next 10 years.
Got me really confused. Are you saying that then when a land drainage project comes through a street, rips up the whole street, puts a pipe down the middle of it, the land drainage section renews the street or completes the street?
So when a
Is that what you're saying?
When a utility goes through a street, so any utility, be it power, anyone, they are only responsible for reinstating what they need to, what they have impacted.
That's what I was saying, and so the other end of the street wasn't in their program.
No, it wasn't in their program. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of lesson that
there wasn't a streets program in there either.
Right. That's right.
Because of the skirt works that was going on. So there was a whole level of complexity around this particular area that we then worked with the community, and I think that's the good news story. Land drainage and transport and Three Waters all work with the community, and everyone knows the priority and the program moving forward. So that is the good news part of this.
So when I
All
went,
right, so
like, for
Yanni, coming back to
example,
your question.
like the Three Waters kind of department, I went and looked at the Chilham Street brick barrel. Amazing job they're doing there. But if you go down Chilham Street on the footpaths, that's completely munted, right? So they're going to spend all this time reinstating the middle of the road when you've got buggered footpaths on each side. For a small, well, not small, but for a cost-effective variation to the contract, to do it once and fix the footpath at the same time as you do the road, seems like a really sensible thing to do. So, I mean, that's the sort of lesson learnt that I was kind of hoping that we would get from this, is where there's opportunities to do synergy, here's the process we use to consider it.
So that is a separate matter than you were previously discussing in the last 10 minutes, because that also needs to relate to the fact that might be an additional project that you do not have on budget, and you've just gone through all of the capital programme in terms of proposing what might go forward in terms of the LTP. Your point in principle, Councillor Johnson, I think is well made, and it's ensuring that we both maximise what we do to the community once rather than 5 times, or whatever it might be. And if there is opportunity to do additional in an effective and efficient way, and you have the resources to do that, then we should take those. But do not assume that means every time we dig somewhere up, we're therefore going to take on additional works that are not on budget.
But it's the process to consider whether we do it or not, and at what level. And that was, I mean, without the community raising up in this one, I don't think it would have happened.
Yeah.
And some communities won't raise up, but it might be sensible to do it. So if there's a process around it, then we can
Through the chair, it does happen, and it does happen all the time. We sit on the same floor as our colleagues in Three Waters, and they're quite nice people. I quite like talking to them. So we do all the time. We did Hereford Street recently. We've replaced the water main. We did Riccarton Road. We did it all together. So we do it all the time. But as Dawn's just pointed out, it depends on the age of the asset, the condition of the asset, and the budgets that we've got available.
Yeah, I think all of that's well understood, and thank you for that. All right, now I'm keen to move this on because we're at 1:45 already. Anne, I'll come to you for a further question.
It's not a question, it's just actually to reinforce and to endorse what Lynette said. You know, we just had a briefing last night at our community board where we had a team of all those people that were working together to make sure Island, Middleton Road, Riccarton Road were working together. So I think, it is happening.
All right, thank you. Any further questions on this report? All right, so we are removing receipt of the report. I'm happy to move that. Do I have a seconder? Jimmy Chen. Is there any debate? All those in favour say aye. Against, that's carried. So now we move to item 15, the Audit and Risk Management Committee remuneration